Hello everyone, welcome to Bioknowledge. Today I will discuss about the carbohydrate metabolism. First of all, we should know about the biomolecules. What are the biomolecules are present inside our body? These are carbohydrate, protein and fat. What is carbohydrate? Carbohydrate is also known as the polyhydroxyketone and polyhydroxyaldehyde. Means CHO, the whole to the power n. The basic formula is CHO whole to the power n. The simpler form of carbohydrate molecule is the glucose molecule. Then coming on to the definition of carbohydrate metabolism. It is the set of biochemical process in living organisms that create, break down and interconvert carbohydrates primarily to produce energy like ATP or store it for later use. This process begins with the digestion of food into monosaccharide such as glucose, which are then used in metabolic pathways like glycolysis and the citric acid cycle to generate energy. What is monosaccharide? The single unit of carbohydrate molecule is also known as monosaccharide. Excess carbohydrates can be stored as glycogen in the liver and muscles or converted to fat. The key pathways include glycolysis, glycogenesis, glycogenolysis, glucogenesis, synthesis from non-carbohydrate and lipogenesis. So these are the key pathways of carbohydrate metabolism. Later I will discuss about these pathways. Then coming on to the key aspects of carbohydrate metabolism. First is digestion and absorption. Dietary carbohydrates are broken down into simple sugars like glucose, fructose, galactose, which are then absorbed into bloodstream. Then second one is energy production. Glucose is a primary fuel for cells and is broken down through various pathways to produce ATP like cellular energy. The energy production first pathway is glycolysis. What is glycolysis? In the cytoplasm, glucose is broken down into pyruvate, a 3-carbon molecule generating some ATP. Then cellular respiration. Pyruvate enters the mitochondria where it can be further oxidized in the citric acid cycle and then undergo oxidative phosphorylation to produce a large amount of ATP. Then third one is carbohydrate storage. When energy needs are met, excess glucose can be stored as glycogen in the liver and muscles. Then fourth one is carbohydrate synthesis. The body can synthesize glucose from non-carbohydrate sources like glycerol and amino acid precursors through gluconeogenesis. Fifth one is interconversion and integration. Carbohydrate metabolism is closely linked with fat and protein metabolism. For example, excess carbohydrate can be converted to triglycerides and stored as fat. Then coming on to the key pathways and processes. What are these? First one is glycolysis, the initial anaerobic breakdown of glucose into pyruvate. Second is pentose phosphate pathway, produces NADPH and 5-carbon sugars used in other metabolic processes. Third one is glycogenesis, the prosynthesis of glycogen for glucose storage. Then glycogenolysis, the breakdown of glycogen to release glucose. The process of glycogenolysis is completely opposite to glycogenesis. Then coming on to the gluconeogenesis, the formation of glucose from non-carbohydrate precursors is called gluconeogenesis. Then what is lipogenesis? It is the synthesis of fatty acids and triglycerides from excess glucose. Then coming on to regulation of carbohydrate metabolism. The basic steps and regulatory agent are hormones, enzymatic activity and gene expressions. Then we should discuss about the glycolysis. What is glycolysis? Glycolysis is the first process of carbohydrate metabolism. Glycolysis is also called as Embden-Meyerhof pathway because two scientists invented this pathway. These are Embden and Meyerhof and named as Embden-Meyerhof pathway. In this process, oxygen is utilized. That is why it is called aerobic reaction. Glycolysis is the sequence of reactions converting glucose to pyruvate or lactate, producing ATP. There are two types of glycolysis pathways. One is anaerobic, where oxygen is utilized and that is converted into pyruvate, and where the oxygen is not utilized and converted into lactate. This is the overall process of glycolysis. In the first step, glucose is converted into glucose 6-phosphate in presence of enzyme hexokinase and gives rise to ADP from ATP. Then in the second step, glucose 6-phosphate is converted into fructose 6-phosphate in presence of enzyme phosphohexose isomerase and gives rise to ADP from ATP, and the inorganic phosphate is utilized in the fructose 6-phosphate. Then in the third step, fructose 6-phosphate is converted into fructose 1,6-bisphosphate in presence of enzyme phosphofructokinase. This is the allosteric enzyme. Then fourth step, fructose 1,6-bisphosphate is converted into aldolase. Fructose 1,6-bisphosphate is converted into glyceryl 3-phosphate in presence of enzyme aldolase. Then glyceryl 3-phosphate is interconverted into dihydroxyacetone phosphate in presence of enzyme phosphotriose isomerase. Then the glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate is converted into 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate in presence of enzyme dehydrogenase and gives rise to NADH plus hydrogen ion from NAD plus. Then 2 molecule of 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate gives rise to 2,3-phosphoglycerate in presence of enzyme phosphoglycerate kinase and gives rise to 2 ATP from ADP. Then 3-phosphoglycerate molecule gives rise to 2-phosphoglycerate molecule in presence of enzyme phosphoglycerate mutase. Then the 2-phosphoglycerate molecules gives rise to phosphoenol pyruvate in presence of enzyme enolase and gives rise to 2 water molecules. Then phosphoenol pyruvate gives rise to pyruvate in presence of enzyme pyruvate kinase and gives rise to 2 ATPs. So these are the overall process of the glycolysis pathway. Thank you.